In downtown Chicago, my encounter with Karen turned my life upside down in a saga I now call Karen Kicks Homeless Man Out, but he's the owner of the building. Accused of trespassing on my own property, this confrontation with a notorious neighbor sparked a feud that exposed deep prejudice. Here's how it all went down. In the heart of downtown Chicago, I found myself in an unexpected predicament. As the owner of a historic building, I faced off against a notorious neighbor, Karen, who accused me of trespassing on my own property. Little did I know, this confrontation would ignite a neighborhood feud that would expose the darkest sides of prejudice and intolerance. I never thought I'd be in a situation like this. My name's not important, but what happened to me, well, that's a story worth telling. It all started on a chilly evening in downtown Chicago. I was returning to my building, a modest yet historic structure that I had recently acquired. Dressed in old clothes and a worn-out jacket, I wanted to inspect some ongoing renovations incognito. As I approached the entrance, I noticed her, Karen. She was notorious in the neighborhood for her loud, confrontational nature. Standing there, arms crossed, she looked like a hawk guarding its nest. "Excuse me, sir, but you can't loiter here," Karen barked, her voice sharp as a knife. I tried to explain. "Actually, I'm here to—" "I don't care. You can't afford to live here, so scram!" she interrupted, her eyes narrowing. I was taken aback by her rudeness. "I just need to check on something inside. This is private property. I'm calling the police," Karen threatened, pulling out her phone. I sighed, realizing this was going nowhere. "Listen, I'm not causing any trouble. Save it for the cops," she snapped. I decided to wait it out. Maybe once the police arrived, I could explain the situation. But Karen wasn't done. She continued her tirade, drawing the attention of passers-by. "You people think you can just wander anywhere. This is a respectable building, not some shelter." I felt a mix of anger and pity. How could someone be so heartless? The situation escalated when Karen decided to physically shove me away from the entrance. "I said leave," she yelled. That's when the police arrived. 2 officers approached, their expressions stern. "There's a homeless man harassing me and trying to break into the building," Karen exclaimed dramatically. One of the officers turned to me. "Sir, can you explain what's going on?" I took a deep breath. "I'm the owner of this building. I was just trying to enter my property." Karen laughed mockingly. "Yeah, right. And I'm the Queen of England." The officers looked at each other, then back at me. "Do you have any proof, sir?" I nodded, reaching into my pocket for my ID and the building's deed. As I handed them over, Karen's face turned pale. The officers checked the documents and then confirmed. "He's telling the truth, ma'am. He owns this building." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. But he looks—" The officers warned Karen about her behavior and advised her to be more careful in the future. As they left, Karen stood there, speechless. I turned to her, feeling a mix of triumph and disgust. "Next time, maybe you'll think twice before judging someone based on their appearance." Karen mumbled something under her breath and scurried away, her pride clearly wounded. As I entered my building, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. People like Karen existed everywhere, quick to judge and slow to understand. But I also felt a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this incident would be a wake-up call for her. I watched Karen from my office window, her voice piercing the calm evening air. It was disheartening to see her unchanged demeanor. I decided to confront her again, hoping to somehow get through to her. Descending the stairs, I approached her. "Karen, why do you do this? Why are you so quick to judge and push people away?" She spun around, her eyes blazing. "Because people like him." She pointed at the person she was harassing. "They ruin our neighborhood. They bring down the value of our properties. But don't you see? Your actions, your words, they're what's truly damaging," I argued. Karen scoffed. "You're just like them, sympathizing with the riffraff. You don't belong here either." Her words stung, but I kept my composure. "Karen, I own this building. I decide who belongs and who doesn't. And right now, you're the one causing trouble." She looked at me, her face contorted in anger. "You can't tell me what to do. I've lived here longer than you've owned this dump." I realized then that reasoning with Karen was futile. Her mind was a fortress, sealed off from any logic or empathy. A week later, I learned that Karen had started a petition to clean up the neighborhood, targeting those she deemed undesirable. She had rallied a small group of like-minded residents, spreading her toxic views. I felt a deep sense of responsibility. As the building owner, I couldn't let her divisive actions go unchecked. I organized a community meeting, inviting all residents, including Karen and her supporters. At the meeting, I spoke about diversity, tolerance, and community. I highlighted the importance of understanding and empathy, but Karen interrupted, her voice dripping with disdain. "This is all nonsense. We need to protect our homes from these people." Her words ignited a heated debate. Some agreed with her, while others were appalled. The meeting ended in chaos, with no resolution in sight. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake off a feeling of despair. Karen's influence had grown stronger, her views more entrenched. The building, my building, had become a battleground for her prejudice crusade. In the days that followed, tensions in the neighborhood escalated. Karen's group started patrolling the streets, harassing anyone they deemed suspicious. The atmosphere was charged with hostility and fear. One evening as I returned home, I found graffiti on the building's wall. "No place for the homeless." My heart sank. Karen's campaign had turned into something ugly, something dangerous. I reported the incident to the authorities, but the damage was done. The neighborhood was divided, its sense of community shattered by one woman's relentless prejudice. As I stood there, looking at the hateful words on the wall, I felt a profound sense of loss. Karen, with her stubbornness and bigotry, had poisoned the very heart of our community, and in doing so, she had shown me the darkest side of humanity, a side that was repulsive and deeply saddening. The story of Karen and the homeless man was no longer just a confrontation at a building entrance. It had become a symbol of a larger, more troubling issue, the ease with which hate and intolerance can spread, unchecked and unchallenged. Just finished listening to the Karen Kicks Homeless Man Out, but he's the owner of the building story. And wow, what a roller coaster. Seriously, who would have thought that a simple property inspection could turn into such a dramatic showdown? Karen really had me shaking my head here. Can't believe how quick some people are to judge. Great storytelling though. Had me hooked from start to finish. I couldn't believe what my father had done. He slept through my daughter's school play, missing the moment she had been eagerly anticipating. The tension between us grew, and as the days passed, I wondered if we could ever repair the damage. But then, something unexpected happened. Here's how it all went down. My father, 68 years old, moved to a different country 8 years ago. He tries to visit whenever he can, and I try to facilitate a relationship between him and my children as much as possible. However, whenever he visits, he tends to act entitled. He spends his mornings and afternoons either sleeping or hanging out with his old friends without helping me with anything I ask him to do. Then he gets annoyed when he wants to do something at 9 p.m. and the kids are too tired. He always uses the excuse of being exhausted from traveling and feeling the need to rest and spend time with friends he rarely sees. While my kids are always excited when my dad visits, it seems that they actually see him more often when he's FaceTiming us from a different hemisphere than when he's staying in our guest room. Currently, he's visiting us to meet my youngest daughter, who was born in September. He arrived 2 weeks ago and will be flying back home in a few days. I've been trying to encourage him to spend more time with my kids this time around, but he still goes out frequently. On Saturday, my older daughter had her first ever school play. She was really excited about it and invited my father, who promised her he would come. However, the day before the play, my father went out with his friends and didn't return until 3 a.m. The play was scheduled to start at 11 a.m., with us needing to arrive 30 minutes early. In total, he only got about 6 hours of sleep. When we, my dad, my husband, my son, and I, arrived at the play, we sat in one of the first rows as requested by my daughter. The play lasted for 40 minutes, but my father fell asleep less than 15 minutes in. I woke him up, but he fell asleep again. Since he snores loudly while sleeping, I continued to wake him up whenever he dozed off. Near the end of the play, I was unable to wake him up in time, and he let out a snore that was so loud that some of the kids on stage looked over at us. At that point, I nudged his arm harder and he remained awake. My husband filmed the play for my mom and stepdad, who were with our baby during the performance. Immediately after the play, my dad asked if he could have the video too, since he missed most of it. We have decided not to share the video with him. I told him that he had the opportunity to watch it live but chose to spoil the experience for all of us, especially my daughter. He doesn't deserve to watch what he missed just because he decided to stay out late the night before. My dad is angry. He accuses me and my husband of depriving him of his role in my daughter's life. He also insists that he was exhausted during the play and needed rest. I truly don't believe that we are in the jerks here, but given the escalating tension, it might be easier to let him watch the video. These past few days have been awkward for me and my husband because we were angry at my father, who in turn was angry at us. A few hours after I wrote my post, my father decided to prove me wrong about my daughter being upset. He sat next to her and tried to get her to talk about the play, asking her questions that he should have known the answers to if he had stayed awake during it. I think my daughter understood what he was doing, because it only made things worse. She refused to answer his questions, and at one point, she ran to me crying. I'm not sure if that was my dad's wake-up call or if it was his granddaughter refusing to talk to him. She usually admires him. Whatever it was, he apologized to my daughter, saying, "Grandpa was really tired, but he loves you very much." She said she forgave him but was still upset, so on Tuesday night he came to me to ask what he could do to fix things before he went home. I helped him come up with some ideas. Yesterday, my father surprised the kids with a trip to the aquarium. My daughter had been asking to go there for a while, but with a newborn at home, we hadn't found the time. The kids had a lot of fun there, and my dad let them each choose a plushie from the gift shop. Afterwards, we went to McDonald's and took the kids to see Santa at the mall. Overall, My kids had a great day with their grandfather, and my daughter is feeling much better. That being said, the aquarium, casual food, and an old man in a fake beard are definitely not my father's idea of a good time, so I'm sure he'll complain about all the sacrifices he made for his grandkids for a while. But as long as my kids think he had fun, I'm fine with that. I do think he understands that he made a mistake. He's no longer asking us for the video, and has promised that he'll never show such disregard for things that my kids care about again. As some of you suggested, I told him that he'll have to stay with my sister or one of his friends next time he visits. I think he knows that the excuse of, "You're keeping me away from my grandkids," won't work on me because he hasn't complained about it yet. If he tries to start an argument about it once he's home, I'll hang up on him. Hearing about the situation with your father really struck a chord with me. It's tough when family dynamics clash, especially over something as meaningful as your daughter's play. It seems like your dad realized his mistake though, and made an effort to make it up to her with the aquarium trip. Setting boundaries for future visits is a smart move. It's all about finding that balance and understanding each other's perspectives. In the midst of a lively club night, an unexpected challenge arose, putting my relationship with my amazing partner Jen to the test. Her usual warmth and charm were suddenly overshadowed by a bold, protective stance, leaving me both stunned and in awe. Here's how it all went down. I've been in a relationship with Jen for 2 years, and she's amazing. Kind, smart, funny, and pretty. She has a warm and bubbly personality, always smiling and laughing. I jokingly call it her resting nice face, RNF. She's also 5 inches and full of energy. Due to her attractive looks and friendly personality, Jen often gets approached by guys. Unfortunately, she also receives negative attention from some women. In the past, I used to feel jealous when guys talked to her, which would upset her. Let me make it clear. Jen is not particularly flirty. She doesn't initiate conversations or lead guys on. She's not seeking male attention. I'm 6'1" with a somewhat intimidating build, so my go-to move is standing tall with my arms crossed and staring at the guy, then saying something like, "Is there an issue?" Instead of immediately intervening when guys hit on her and causing an argument, I started paying attention to how she handles unwanted attention. She's like a ninja, deflecting creeps and mean girls. She reads the situation and knows when to act nice, when to ignore them, when to be firm, and when to leave. I started to realize that I don't need to be jealous because she can take care of herself. I tore up my knee over the summer, and she basically moved in to help me during my surgery and rehab. She's been amazing, taking me to places when I couldn't drive, making me food when I couldn't even stand, and helping me with my physical therapy. I'm still wearing a knee brace, but I'm getting there. She loves to dance, and even though I'm terrible at it, I love going with her because it makes her happy, and she looks incredible when she's dancing. Since my injury, we haven't gone out much or danced. I can only do slow dances at the moment, so I got her friends to come out with us so she has someone to dance with. I'm pretty sure she enjoys dancing with her female friends more anyway. It was just me, Jen, a couple, and 2 girls. The couple left pretty early. While watching her dance, I had a moment of clarity. All I could think was how lucky I was that I would be going home with the person I love most in the world. I realized I wanted to marry her. 3 attractive women dancing are bound to draw attention. I'm not a hater, but it was amusing to watch guys try to hit on them, and I was glad that wasn't my role anymore. This particular group of guys didn't seem to get the hint. They surrounded the girls and tried to dance behind them. Jen said something and pushed them aside. The girls came back to where I was sitting, and the guys were glaring at us. Club closes, and we're walking towards my car. Turns out the guys weren't ready to let it go. A couple of them insulted us, especially me, calling me a beta, and saying I'm not a real man, real incel energy. The irony that these were the guys I should have been protecting my girlfriend from was completely lost on them. They kept getting louder and more aggressive, despite our attempts to defuse the situation. It seemed like a fight was inevitable. We were only a block away from the club, so I told the girls we should head back to where people were waiting for Ubers. However, they blocked our way, and I was ready to confront them, hoping to intimidate them while the girls made their escape. I have one bad leg, and if someone pushed me, I would probably fall. Plus, I was outnumbered. Suddenly, Jen unleashed a barrage of insults and obscenities towards these guys, without even taking a breath. They were shocked, and so was I, by the genuine rage she directed at them. I had never seen her so angry. As she moved towards them, screaming, they started backing up. She was driving them back towards the crowd and causing a commotion. Told you she's a ninja. Some club-goers began to approach, clearly not on the guy's side. The guys were embarrassed because they were being scolded by someone who weighed only 120 lbs but had an intense anger. This is the part where I should be embarrassed that my girlfriend, who is 8 inches shorter and 75 lbs lighter, prevented me from getting beaten up. However, it was one of the most badass things I've ever witnessed. I was trying to gather the courage to talk to her about our future, and ensure that we were on the same page. I knew she loved me and wanted to be my wife, but she had personal goals to achieve, such as attending grad school. I would have understood if she wanted to wait before getting engaged, but it would still have been painful. She was sitting on the couch, engrossed in a book, and I couldn't help but admire her. I kept thinking, she's amazing. Just talk to her, everything will be fine. She looked at me with her big glasses and smiled. That was the final push I needed. Thankfully, we were both ready and in the same place to take the next step. We recently went on a long weekend together. As we walked to a picturesque spot for a picnic, I pretended to stumble and fake an injury to my knee. I'm pretty sure she saw through it, but she played along. She loved the ring and, of course, accepted my proposal. I had previously written a love and appreciation letter about her. Additionally, I wrote a personal letter by hand to give to her when I proposed. She cried both when I proposed and when she read the letter. Later that day, I showed her the post I wrote. She liked it, chuckled a little, and gave me a loving look. She mentioned that I exaggerated a bit. Those guys were just talk. She didn't consider herself a badass, men didn't flirt with her that often, and women were rarely mean to her. She jokingly added that she would kick my ass if I claimed otherwise. But I stand by what I wrote. In my eyes, she's a strong and resilient person. I really enjoyed writing both the post and the letter, so I started handwriting her little letters and poems. They may not be the best, but she keeps each one, and even printed out the post to save it. She tells me she loves my writing because it helps her feel more connected when I express my feelings. I think that's her way of saying it's the thought that counts. I'm amazed by and somewhat intimidated by my fiancé. Hearing about your night at the club with Jen really opened my eyes to the unexpected layers in people. It's incredible how she stepped up in a challenging situation, showing such strength and protectiveness. This story not only highlights the bond you two share, but also serves as a reminder that there's often more to someone than meets the eye. For 3 years, my boyfriend and I have been inseparable during the week, yet we've never spent a single weekend together. A mystery that I never questioned until today. In this tale of love and unexpected secrets, I uncover a truth so bewildering, it challenges everything I thought I knew about him. Here's how it all went down. My boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for 3 years. Although we don't live together, we spend a lot of time together since we are close. However, we rarely have the opportunity to spend a whole day together. On the few occasions when we have, it has always been during the week when our schedules coincidentally align. That is, no work or class. Surprisingly, we have never spent a day together on the weekend. He works as a research assistant while pursuing his PhD. Throughout the entire duration of our relationship, he has consistently claimed that he has work every single weekend. I now realize how foolish I have been to trust him blindly. I believe that he genuinely had work every weekend for 3 years, until today. As I have been studying for finals, which have been particularly challenging, I was longing for some quality time with him. I simply wanted a day where we could relax and enjoy each other's company. However, once again, he insisted that he couldn't join me because of work, and I reluctantly accepted it. Today, however, I grew impatient and decided to text him, asking when he would be back so that we could spend the evening together. Usually, he responds fairly quickly to my messages, but this time, I waited for a considerable amount of time. After 2 hours, I contacted one of his work friends, who is also a research assistant. To my surprise, he informed me in that very text that they didn't have work today, and in fact, they rarely ever have work on weekends. Rarely ever. Now I find myself sitting here wondering what on earth is going on. I have no idea how to address this issue with him. I mean, this has been happening for 3 years. If he is cheating on me, he may as well have a second family by now. Naturally, my mind jumps to infidelity, as I can't think of any other possible explanation. How do I confront him about something he has been doing for 3 years? Since he will be occupied with whatever he is doing tomorrow, should I just drive over to his place in the morning, wait, and then follow him? Has anyone else experienced a similar situation before? When I logged off, there were differing opinions on what I should do. Some people called him a cheater or labeled me as the side chick. I wasn't sure if I could wait another day to confront him, so I decided to confront him the night of that post, without any games or stalking. Anyway, I texted him and asked him to come over once he finished work, and he did. I waited for about 5 minutes for him to settle in, before telling him that we needed to talk about something important. His immediate response of, uh-oh, was somewhat demeaning, but that sarcastic reaction aligned with his personality. I explained everything that had happened, how hurt I was, and how I felt like I couldn't trust him considering he had been doing this for 3 years. Then, I asked if he had anything to say. He assured me that he wasn't cheating on me or anything like that. He was just embarrassed about what he had been doing. I questioned what could possibly be so embarrassing that he had to hide it and lie to me for 3 years. After taking a minute to compose himself, he muttered something. It was clear that he felt guilty, but I couldn't hear what he said, so I asked him to repeat it. He then told me that he volunteers at a homeless shelter every weekend since he arrived for his PhD. Volunteering at a homeless shelter? I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. The emotions I felt at that moment were multiplied tenfold. It made absolutely no sense that he would be embarrassed about volunteering at a homeless shelter. Confused, I asked him to clarify, and he confirmed that he volunteers at a homeless shelter for 6 hours on Saturdays and Sundays every weekend. Naturally, I asked him why he would be embarrassed about that. He requested if we could discuss it further the following day, Sunday, and suggested proving that he wasn't lying by taking me to volunteer with him. I agreed with a sure, because my mind was blank at the time, and I asked him to leave. He apologized and left, then sent a text saying he would pick me up in the morning to prove that he wasn't lying. My mind raced all night and I couldn't sleep. But Sunday came, and it turned out he wasn't lying. He took me to a homeless shelter or soup kitchen, I'm not really sure of the difference, where we spent 6 hours preparing food, cleaning, and packing daily necessities. It wasn't the right place to have the conversation, so I focused on the work and chatted with other people. They were really nice, and when I asked them about my boyfriend, they confirmed that he'd been working there for as long as they could remember, and was there every weekend. He had been there longer than most of them, it seemed. Finally, our volunteering ends, and we head back to his car. I try to start a conversation, but he shuts me down and asks me to wait until we get back to his place. I reluctantly agree, and we head to his apartment. Once there, we begin talking. He asks if I believe that he's telling the truth about working at the homeless shelter every weekend. I confirm that I do, as I confirmed it with many people while there. However, I express my confusion about why he kept it a secret for so long. He apologizes again and asks if I really want to know why he kept it a secret. I respond with a resounding, yes! He sighs and proceeds to explain that he doesn't like people knowing that he likes helping others. This revelation leaves me perplexed, and I ask him to elaborate. He shares that during his undergraduate years, he would discreetly assist his classmates by discussing their problems, negotiating for curves or extensions on their assignments, even when he didn't personally need it. He enjoyed doing it and continued to do so as a master's student. However, when he started doing it publicly, some classmates began resenting him, accusing him of babying them. As a result, he went back to assisting behind the scenes and distanced himself from any public association with his acts of kindness. I find this explanation rather strange. Helping at a homeless shelter and assisting classmates are not remotely the same thing. I voice this opinion, and he argues that both actions help people, and he doesn't want people to misinterpret his intentions or perceive him as trying to portray himself as a good person. He assures me that he is not a good person, but he still wants to help others, so this is how he chooses to do it. I question whether he really thinks I would be upset about him volunteering in his free time to help homeless people. He admits that he wasn't sure at first, especially since we wanted to spend weekends together when we first started dating. So he lied to hide his volunteering activities. He acknowledges that he knows I wouldn't have a problem with it now, but he continued the lie because he thought it would be too strange to suddenly reveal that he volunteers at a homeless shelter. I have come to the conclusion that he is just very unusual. His way of thinking has always been peculiar, but this situation is especially bizarre. He seems to understand my perspective but didn't think to tell me the truth on his own. We ended up going in circles, so I ended the conversation and had him drive me home in silence. Since then, he has sent numerous texts and tried to call me several times. I didn't respond on Monday or Tuesday because I needed time to think. However, I finally picked up today, and we had another discussion in which we reiterated our previous points. Many people have advised me to break up with him, but I am still considering everything. I plan to try and spend time with him this weekend and make my decision after that. This whole situation has been incredibly strange. I apologize for repeating that sentiment multiple times, but my thoughts are still quite jumbled. So I asked him to come over so we could talk, and he did. I then asked him some of the questions that people had on here, which I had written down. Regarding volunteering for 6 hours but still not having time for me, he said he would arrive a little early and leave late, but would then spend the remaining hours running errands and actually working on his PhD assistant stuff. I asked for more details, and he mentioned some details about academic articles that I don't remember. I asked why he couldn't spend more weekend evenings with me if that was the case. He said he was really busy with work and that I would distract him. Out of everything that was said, this is the one thing that bothers me the most. I asked if the volunteering was court-ordered. He laughed at that and seemed confused by the question, but he answered that given the special population he works with for his PhD, he doubts he would be able to work with them if he had a record that required so many hours. I asked if he was ever going to tell me about the volunteering. Initially, he said he didn't know, but then he replied that he probably wouldn't have. He apologized for lying, but then said that whether he was working or volunteering doesn't make a difference to how much time he spent with me. Obviously, I pushed back on this, and he got defensive. We had an argument that basically reiterated how I felt like I couldn't trust him because he was lying about this while he kept apologizing for the lying and making me feel that way. But but it wouldn't have changed how we spend time together. Ultimately, I asked him to explain to me again why he hid it in the first place. Like he has said before, he used to talk to professors during undergrad about extensions and questions others had behind closed doors, and then make sure those things were discussed with the rest of the class. He did the same thing in his master's program. This is where I got lost before. One of his professors was strict, and some of his classmates were afraid to talk to him about their grades. So, he thought he could show them that he was willing to discuss grades and made a joke about his own grade in class. The professor didn't find it funny and went on a rant about respect and showing him up. Apparently, the class ended shortly after because it was so tense. He mentioned that some of the other students felt like they needed to distance themselves from him to show the professor that they weren't involved in the joke, and a few of them made a show of hating him from that point forward. Hearing the story in more detail at least makes a little more sense to me. I expressed again that helping homeless people and helping classmates seemed like completely different things. He said they felt the same to him, but I was probably right and he was wrong. I asked him why he said he's a bad person. He asked if he had said that, and I said yes. He replied that he didn't want the volunteering to make him seem like a good person because he's not. I asked what he meant, and he said that I know him. I stated that I'm not sure I do. He said that I know what he means, but we went in circles. Personally, I think he has low self-esteem, but this is a strange way to express it, and I'm not sure what else it could be. I told him I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue the relationship because of the lying. He seemed hurt, but then just said okay, and that it's my decision. I told him that he should at least consider therapy for the classmate situation because it has clearly affected him negatively. He replied that he probably should, but he won't. After that, I gave him an ultimatum. Either spend more time with me on weekends and go to therapy, or we break up. I told him to think about it, and that he has until Saturday. He said he would and then left. On Saturday, he asked me to compromise. He would take a day off from volunteering if I joined him another day, and he wouldn't have to go to therapy. I told him I needed time to think about it. Later that night, I told him I would accept the compromise if he agreed to attend just one therapy session. However, on Sunday morning, he informed me that he was not willing to go to therapy and suggested we go out to dinner instead. We went to a local diner and discussed ending our relationship. He apologized for ending things in this manner and acknowledged that he wasn't being entirely reasonable, but he felt it was necessary. I responded by saying that it was his decision to make. We wished each other the best, shared a parting hug, and went our separate ways. So after 3 years of commitment, it's come to this. It's disappointing. Have a good day. It's fascinating how we often assume the worst in people, expecting deception or infidelity, when the truth might be something entirely different and unexpectedly positive. Yet, it's also a reminder of how important communication and honesty are in a relationship. The boyfriend's intentions were noble, but his approach created a chasm of distrust. When I met my girlfriend at the campus gym, our connection quickly grew from shared workouts to a deeper bond over video games and geek culture. However, tension arose with her friend Bill, whose passive-aggressive behavior and a failed intervention by her friends tested our relationship. Through these challenges, we learned valuable lessons about trust, friendship, and each other. Here's how it all went down. I met my girlfriend at our campus gym. I jokingly asked her to spot me, made a self-deprecating joke about not being a big guy, which is true, and somehow ended up convincing her to go on a date with me after our workout. We've been together ever since. As I got to know her better, she admitted to being a huge geek, which surprised me because I never would have guessed. Apparently, her brother introduced her to a lot of geeky stuff. At the time, I thought it was cool because we could play Xbox together or something. However, apart from a few games like Halo, we didn't have a lot of overlapping interests. She's into things like D&D, Final Fantasy, and WoW, which I had never paid much attention to. But it's been a lot of fun exploring these new interests together. We still work out and run together all the time, and she even watches me play intramural sports. We're also planning to join some co-ed leagues together. The only issue is that a small group of her friends seems to dislike me. The main problem is this guy named Bill. He and his little group have done a couple of passive-aggressive things. One time, we were playing Destiny, doing a strike which requires 3 players. It was Bill, my girlfriend, and me. Bill kept leaving the party and inviting her to a different one. When she declined, he sent a text saying that another friend wanted to play. My girlfriend decided to just play with me and one of my friends. On Saturdays, my girlfriend hosts a D&D party at her apartment. Some of her friends, including Bill, come over to play. Bill complained about people who come over but don't participate in the game. Everyone else just hangs out and has a good time. My girlfriend told him to get over it because everyone else enjoys themselves. Another video game-related issue occurred when my girlfriend had all of us play Diablo 3 hardcore. It was me, Bill, her, and another guy named Ryan, who is actually a good guy. While I was having fun and relying on my girlfriend for guidance, Bill rushed ahead and got killed. He was furious. He even invited my girlfriend to a concert with him and his close friends after I had already bought tickets for us to go and for her to meet my family. The festival is in my hometown. My girlfriend told him that we might see him there, and he asked if we would even still be together by then. It's in December. The most outrageous incident happened yesterday when Bill sent me a text claiming that I'm hogging my girlfriend. I responded by saying that if she didn't want to spend time with me, she wouldn't. He replied by telling me that I don't have to do everything with my girlfriend and that it annoys people. I believe he has a crush on her. My girlfriend has mentioned that she grew up with him but never really liked him. She considers him a part of the group and prefers not to make a fuss. She's not confrontational. I can't really blame him for having a crush on her. She's a beautiful girl and all. However, I think he has been behaving poorly. Luckily, I'm not too threatened because he isn't my girlfriend's type physically, if I'm anything to go by. Should I just ignore him? Well, for those of you who suggested waiting and letting him escalate things, he did just that. I must have eaten something that gave me food poisoning 2 days ago, so my girlfriend has been taking care of me during these past few days. If that's not intimacy, I don't know what is. She received a call from Bill, who was at her apartment with some of her friends. She has an open door policy, and people often drop by unannounced. She went to meet them, and apparently, they decided to have some sort of intervention. They basically repeated what Bill had said to me earlier in a text, that I didn't have to do everything with them and that we spend too much time together. The situation escalated because my girlfriend got angry, and now they are no longer friends. My girlfriend came home crying, and I did my best to comfort her. We haven't heard from them since yesterday. Apparently, a few more people, including some of her female friends in that group, whom she was really close to, had a problem with us, but most of her friends didn't take a side. How can I support her through this? She has lost a relatively large number of friends, and even if they weren't great friends, they were the people she shared her hobbies with. Obviously, if she wants to do anything with me, I will do it with her, but I can't replace all of them. She's not crying anymore. She's just angry at this point. John, another one of her original D&D buddies from high school, sent my girlfriend an email asking if they could talk with us yesterday. We agreed, honestly thinking that they might apologize. Instead, they expressed their desire to still be friends with my girlfriend and made it clear that they didn't have to be friends with me to be friends with her. My girlfriend acknowledged that, but wasn't even sure if she still wanted to be friends. They did apologize for putting her in that position during the failed intervention. However, my girlfriend stated that the only way they could ever be friends again is if they apologized to both me and her. I'm not sure why, but I felt the need to ask them what they didn't like about me. They gave me some feedback, and to be honest, some of their points were valid, so I'll need to work on them. I only started dating my girlfriend because I was physically attracted to her and decided to approach her. I don't think this is a valid criticism. I do spend a lot of time with my girlfriend, as I mentioned before, but it's something we both want at the moment. I've never prioritized her over my friends or anything like that. I tend to only talk to my girlfriend when we're in a group setting. I can see how that might be annoying when we're having a conversation that excludes others. They feel like my girlfriend has kicked them out before. There have been a couple of instances where she did that so we could have alone time, but I never told her to do it. They claim that I've taken advantage of my girlfriend. When she turned 21 before me, I would give her cash so she could buy alcohol for us. On one occasion, I asked her to buy condoms because we ran out. Apparently, they were with her, and she felt embarrassed about it. I thanked her at the time and apologized later for making her uncomfortable. They were also uncomfortable with the jokes my friends made about D&D. I apologized for this, although I probably won't say anything to them directly since we're not close. One of my high school friends who I might talk to about this shared a story with Bill and the rest of the group. The story was about me dating multiple girls in high school and leading them on. I did have that habit, but my mom and older sister confronted me my senior year and told me to treat women with more respect. I took their advice to heart, and I've shared this with my girlfriend as one of the important moments in my life. Anyway, my girlfriend and I discussed everything, and she still won't forgive them unless they apologize to both of us. She also made it clear that she doesn't want to spend any less time with me. She sent them an email expressing her feelings, and 2 out of the 6 have already apologized over the phone. Bill wasn't present at the time, and I'm not sure if he'll apologize or not since he's out of town. I'm seeking advice on how to interact with the group that will apologize. The 2 girls in the group are my girlfriend's close friends, who usually come over multiple times a week, compared to the D&D group, who only comes over once a week. I think the girls will probably start inviting my girlfriend out more instead of hanging out at her apartment. I don't think the D&D group will be able to find another place to play if they continue with their sessions. My girlfriend said she's willing to change the D&D night, with the people who have apologized, to have everyone come over on Saturdays. If I'm normally with her when they play, Should I just leave? I thought about doing that before, but knowing that they don't like me makes me uncomfortable, even though I'm pretty sure my girlfriend wouldn't tolerate any mistreatment towards me. The fact that, from what I understand, Bill learned about me from my high school friend makes me uneasy. I don't have anything to hide, but it feels like he was researching me. I haven't brought this up because I want my girlfriend to be able to reconcile with her friends. Despite all this, I believe our relationship is still going strong. We had a lot of fun together this weekend before they asked to meet us. The story reflects on the importance of communication and understanding in relationships, both romantic and platonic. It involves recognizing and respecting boundaries, being open to feedback, and actively working on personal growth while supporting your partner through difficult times. This objective also includes learning how to navigate social dynamics in a way that maintains harmony and mutual respect among all parties involved. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.